welcome to Fantasy Football Corner with your host, Yoshi de la Cruz. I was just busy looking through the old record books to try to find a win for the New Orleans Saints, but there's just not one in there. Thanks for tuning in. We've got a great show today. Let's move on to the meat and potatoes. This show is brought to you by no one because Excedrin has kindly asked us to stop using the name on our program since it wasn't really granted by them in the first place. So they can themselves, and this show is just sponsored by me and my big D. I feel like wide receivers Greg Jennings and Hakeem Nicks are characters from the video game The Oregon Trail, and they're just missing work because of snake bites and diarrhea and dysentery and stuff. And until they figure it out and play some games, I just don't feel comfortable starting them on any of my teams. I hate to continue to pick on the Packers here, but I'm also going to include tight end Jermichael Finley on my poo-poo list because every single year he is overhyped and made to seem like this gigantic threat, and then he underdelivers. He's like Chinese communism or something like that. And until I start to see him produce stud numbers, I'm not excited about him being a top 6 to 8 tight end. Russell Wilson has really done nothing to impress me other than the game-winning interception that he threw on Monday Night Football a few weeks ago, and the coach has stated that Matt Flynn isn't going to be starting this week just because he has a hurt elbow. So, I mean, I pretty much think that makes Russell Wilson unrosterable in most fantasy formats. If Rashad Mendenhall is on the waiver wire, I would definitely make an effort to go out and get him because he now is said that he's recovered from his surgery, and it looks like he will be now skyrocketed to the top of the depth chart for the Steelers, who have really played untraditional Steelers football, not doing very well in the running game. So it looks like that is Mendenhall's job again, and if he's out there, he definitely requires a pickup. It was really nice to see Chris Johnson return to a little bit of his old ways last weekend. Having him on one of my fantasy teams, I found myself jumping in front of the television screen, screaming like a 14-year-old boy at a Justin Bieber concert. Do I think that Chris Johnson is going to be a fantasy stud from here on out? No, I think he will have some of those weeks that he's shown us recently, but I do think that he also demonstrated his athletic ability and his potential to have some great games as well. We usually don't talk a lot about defenses in this league, but I was requested by a fan of the show to mention just how savage this 49ers defense was, and it's pretty impressive the numbers that they've put up this year. In fact, I even had a bad dream the other night that Patrick Willis ripped off my head with his bare hands and shit down the cavity of my body. So, if that means anything, I think that they're, a top 5 defense in every week, pretty much from here on out. Hey, you know who else had a pretty freaking amazing game this past week? This guy! Yep, you knew that one was coming, folks. Brian Hartline has put together a pretty impressive few weeks here, and, I don't think he is going to be a fantasy wide receiver number 1. I definitely think if he's on the waiver wire that he necessitates a pickup this week because I think that he is fantasy viable for the rest of the season, either as a flex position player or a plug-and-play on some bye weeks. So Brian Hartline, although he's not going to put up 245 freaking receiving yards, is still going to be decent at points for the rest of the season. Well, that's all the time that we have left for this show, but thank you so much for tuning in to Yoshi's Fantasy Corner. Please email us your questions at yoshithesexymofo@gmail.com or find us and like us on Facebook. The fan page is Yoshi's Fantasy Corner. Have a great week in fantasy football, and hey, have a great week in life.